Episode 2, Sustainable Housing, why you want to make it out of trash and why it could be dirt cheap. Keep watching. Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the great response on the first episode. This is the second episode. I hope you enjoy it just as much. Still same studio. Ladies and gentlemen, in my studio today I have a guest, my biggest fan. Yeah, that's about it. Nala's not here. She's somewhere under here, somewhere. So it's just gonna be here, but it doesn't matter because I have a great show for you today. Why am I wearing red? Well, because last episode was of course about the tomato. I've learned something about the tomato the last week, is that the same with I love these food things, like how certain foods are also like medicine for something that is significant about them. Like in our leader you have the walnut that is like comparable to the brain. Well, I found out another one is that the tomato that gets red helps really well for not getting a red skin. Yeah, it helps you prevent sunburn. And I got a major sunburn, and so I'm flaky on all sides, but luckily you don't get to see it. You get to see my nice red shirt. So, today's topic, let's see, what do we have? Why do I want to live in dirt and trash? Well, I don't know. Am I destitute?
I'm not destitute. I'm living like this by choice.
In the dirt?
Yeah. In the dirt.
Yeah, in the dirt. Why wouldn't you want to live in the dirt? Dirt has everything. I'm just kidding, of course. Okay, it's time to get serious. It all begins with the fact that I kind of, in a romantic way, like Christopher McCandless, I'm an idealist as well. And I also want to give myself a life where I want to live off the grid. I think it's quite important. Here's some fear porn to illustrate my point.
Tonight, sabotage at sea. That's what President Biden is calling the leaks and explosions along the Nord Stream pipelines. The Russian gas lines are essential. They supply 35% of gas from Russia into Europe. They've been attacked.
Yeah? You want some more?
Is it a beneficial additive or is it a poison that we consume on a daily basis? That's the debate taking place since a Milwaukee alderman proposed ending putting fluoride in Milwaukee's drinking water.
I mean, what can you do? Fluoride in your drinking water, you're being dependent on gas pipes that just explode and like nobody really knows who's done it. All kinds of stuff could happen. There's no reason why there couldn't be like an EMP that completely shuts the grid down. I mean, if there's an EMP, you get problems as well, but still, you want to have your problems contained in some way for yourself. Other stuff like sewage, all of our sewage, they get poured together, and then that sewage, for some reason, we recycle it. So it turns out we put it into drinking water again. So all the hormones, the drugs, the illegal drugs, everything, all the traces are in there. So, is it really something we want to sustain? Also, it gives a whole bunch of personal authority if you have, everything in your own domain. And last but not least, if you are worried about climate change, then it's the absolute thing you have to do, because once you can figure out your own shit, you don't have to worry about the rest of the world, at least for your own consciousness. You can only set an example. We already figured this out in the 1970s. Let's have a look.
What else do we have on this planet that we throw away and we have it in abundance? Tires. Tires were resilient and thermal and super strong and didn't take cement, and you know, you can build a whole tire wall with dirt and a shovel and tires.
He's totally obsessed. He's very one-pointed, very single-minded, and yeah, he has very strong focus for certain things.
And we beat the earth into the tires with sledgehammers, and it was really tight. It was like a compacted 90% brick. In the early 70s, they're talking about solar and trying to store thermal mass in houses, and I'm getting a bit of a consciousness of thermal mass. Beating dirt into tires was mass. Mass holds temperature. And I'm like, oh my God, this thermal mass thing is intense. I mean, it's like, oh, man, it's powerful. Thermal mass, once you have established it around you, it doesn't go away. This is the first one that we actually called an Earthship. I needed a house because I was just getting married to Chris, and here it is 20 years later, and we still live in it because it works. Very simple, easy to build. That's all beer cans plastered over. There's no doors, there's no wall. It's basically a series of U-shaped rooms, all connected with a greenhouse. All of the glass is facing the sun, and the low winter sun comes right in and floods the house and is absorbed into the massive walls of the tires and just stored there. Just heating-wise, there's just no heating bill. There's no heating or cooling bill here. We have a fireplace. We use it on Christmas.
No heating and cooling bill. Now, I don't know what your heating or cooling bill looks like, but that's a massive upside for at least lowering your cost and upping your sustainable habitat. I mean, imagine the amount of energy that you save by not using electricity or not using gas or anything like that. And even if you do need to heat it up, a wood stove is apparently enough. I mean, granted, Michael Reynolds, who's the architect of this project, he started it in New Mexico, which is basically a desert. Granted, but it is applicable for other environments, and we'll get to that later. So a great energy reduction, that's a heating by thermal mass. I mean, what an idea to just get a lot of thermal mass and store all the heat in there. And I mean, that's what our ancestors used to do too, but somehow we've forgotten that type of building in modern buildings, so we don't do that anymore. Another thing that these houses do that he's producing, he calls them Earthships. What they do is they catch the water from the sky. And not only do they catch the water from the sky, I mean, got some pictures here, look at this. So you see they have a lot of thermal mass, and they store the heat in it. At the same time, they're made out of trash. They're you can see tires, you can see bottles. He even uses cans. I'm not such a big fan of cans because, you know, they're aluminum and I don't think they should be in the environment. But hey, you can differ on those kind of things. I mean, look at this. Isn't this a bathroom that you just want to go into? You just want to brush your teeth. You just want to, like, oh, I'm gonna go into the bathroom and look at all the pretty glass that's out there. It's just the water that they use. It gets reused again. It gets repurposed. First thing they do is they feed the plants with them, which are also grown indoors in the greenhouse. And then last but not least, the water gets pumped back up again so it can be used to flushing the toilet. Now, it's just a system that makes sense on an individual scale. So we should look more at the individual scale. But what we keep doing is we keep building rows of houses that just they have to function on a giant grid. And yeah, well, we'll get into that. So all of this, I mean, is a great idea. It's a great concept to just come up with this kind of housing for people to live. I mean, if an EMP happened or nuclear fallout or whatever, you can just, and you would find an Earthship, you could just go in and live there. That's the entire concept. Like like you can go on vacations for months and months, and the only thing you have to worry about is that the greenery gets overgrown a little bit. I mean, that's a perfect house just made to be habitable. And that's what we should strive for, right? So, giant eye-opener, good idea, all sustainable, also very experimental. And what happened with the local authorities? Well, Michael Reynolds, he got canceled.
When you're doing something like running sewage through the living room and building a building out of garbage, if you really do seriously fuck up, it's 10 times as bad. And so, you know, if I had a roof leak, it was lawsuit. If I, you know, had a smell in a bathroom, it was lawsuit. If I had a house that was 60 degrees rather than 70, it was lawsuit.
The powers that be in the architecture world and in the planning world, you know, they just can't see any other way than the way they've got established. And that's how the board of architects basically crammed down his throat that no, there's only one way to do an architectural contract, and this is it. And if you can't do that, then you can't be an architect.
The architects board asked me to bring charges against Mike Reynolds. So everything that he was doing fell outside the scope of what New Mexico would consider legal construction.
She said, basically, they're going to nitpick you to death for the rest of your life because of what you're doing.
Standardized design and construction is so important because it means safety.
I was breaking rules and laws right and left. There's no question about it.
It's not just the design, but it was actually the building of these Earthships that was a problem.
Which, granted, he wasn't playing by the fucking rules. Rules are made to be broken.
I was twisting the law to try to get sustainable housing out there, folks.
The worst outcome that could have ever been for Mike was he'd lose his license, and he did.
Yeah, he lost his license. That's what happens to people who innovate and who come up with new things. So then what happened? Well, Mike Reynolds, he didn't stuck. He then went and he tried to legally fight the county on it, and it just wouldn't work. So the only thing that he could really do is go with him. So that's basically what he did. And he wanted to make the concept work, and the only way that he could make it work within the legal laws of the county was basically to make it a suburb.
I went in with my tail between my legs. I said, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Be a subdivision."
To make the Greater World a legal subdivision, Mike had to develop it in phases and then have the county come in and inspect every phase.
This is the application for phase 3 and 4 to be a subdivision. We have to provide 14 copies of this. Archaeologists had to walk the land and look for arrowheads. That cost $20,000. And all they did was walk around and pick up arrowheads. Engineers had to engineer the terrain and make diagrams and drawings that nobody ever uses. That was $14,000. Just endless horse shit. We have a person who could not see any bigger than the rule book. And I think that's the issue that we have before us right now on this planet. We got lots of people that can't see any bigger than the rule book. And beyond the rule book is global warming.
The amount of expense and time, I mean, it was years of his life and other people's.
It took us 7 years to completely get the entire development open again.
Yes. Yes. What up, Mike?
Hubba, hubba, hubba. All of a sudden, I went from a turd in the punch bowl to, a flying fish.
They now see him as a shining example of how to create a subdivision in Taos County.
Jumped through all the hoops and became a legal subdivision, selling acres of land and lots and building a repetitive little generic house.
A repetitive, generic little house. That's basically what you see here. It's a suburb on plots of land, and it's in some way, what is it? Is it a victory because he did get it legalized and it did get accepted into the county itself? But on the other hand, like, what is this? Is this? I mean, there's something that is about this that is not truly within the flow of nature, within how organic things work. It's this mindset of it needs to be straight, there needs to be roads, it is connected to a road, so technically it's part of a grid. Now, granted, you will probably want a road. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just how did they manage to get such a creative idea? How did they manage to just kill it with structured rules, because it needs to fit in the old paradigm? Well, the new paradigm is about something completely different. Anyway, about Mike's struggles with this, he then later on he tried to get some more space by fighting against the state to get experimental housing. I mean, you would have to watch the documentary. It's a fantastic documentary. But it turns out that whenever there's a crisis situation, such as like a tsunami or something like that, people are extremely flexible with the rules, and it's very easy to build a house like that. So I think that's what Michael Reynolds is still doing currently, focusing on those kind of projects. Meanwhile, we're still stuck with this problem of the mundaneness of such a creative way of thinking. So why is this so unsatisfying? Well, I have an idea. We could ask Professor Ibrahim Karim, and he has something to say about town planning.
So you designed it to achieve at the end prosperity for your nation. So how was the design made? You choose a power spot, and then you put on this power spot maybe your temple, and choose another power spot, and maybe on the other power spot you put the courthouse or the ruler's house or whatever. And then once you put it on that, you join both of them, and usually you will find, before you join them, you will find a line, a connecting line in nature already joining them. So this becomes a path, and this becomes your first main avenue. Then the second power spot, and the second avenue, third. So you're actually planning a city is distributing the light into every activity. Actually, so planning a city is the first step towards producing excellence in all actions and activities of the people living in that city.
Yeah, I think he put it there beautifully. The excellence of the quality of being there. It means that the houses are that you are building are dealing with energy flow, with light, with all kinds of dynamic environments that we have some sort of control over. And I think he illustrates the point properly. I think we'll come to talk about ancient power spots probably in another episode. It's not something that it's a topic that I definitely want to engage in. But for now, let's just listen a little bit more to Dr. Karim and hear what he has to say about the energy inside of the house, because there's something peculiar about that as well.
The granite here, remember Robert told you about all the materials and all that. The dark granite here is probably radioactive, you know. And then you have electricity. So electricity and radioactivity and all that, and then you prepare your food, and then you have allergies or indigestions or all that. So this is again the home that's supposed to protect us, you see. The bathroom, okay, paints and ceramic tiles are probably radioactive. Many of them are radioactive. It's the glaze. The glaze that you use. There are many theories. There are theories saying the glaze could come from areas sometimes where that have certain, like uranium, aluminium, and things like that, and they go into the glaze. It's a natural thing. There are some conspiracy theories saying no, they're actually putting, their stuff. They have to get rid of all the radioactive stuff, so they get rid of it in such materials, and they sell the glaze. They sell it as a glaze. You put it on your ceramics and send it somewhere, and they tell you the radioactivity is so low that it's a second radioactivity. It won't affect anybody. Like what will happen, we say after war zones, the radioactivity is so low it won't affect anybody. And then, but our houses are chemically toxic, bacteriologically toxic. You see, all those glues and veneers and all that, they use formaldehyde and different kinds of glues. After a few years, you take sample of the air, and it's full of about 30 or 40 chemicals that you're breathing. And bacteria you have about 30 or 40 types in the air in any house. Of each type, there are about 4 that are very toxic. So, electromagnetically toxic, radioactivity toxic, chemically toxic, bacteriologically toxic. What kind of houses are we building for ourselves?
What kind of houses are we building for ourselves? Well, apparently they're chemically toxic, bacterially toxic, radioactive, and electromagnetic toxic. So, let me just show you some of Dr. Ibrahim's designs. Might be fair as well. This is a type of town that he designed. For my taste, it's still kind of crowded, but hey, it's okay. Something like this, sure, I could see it work. I took the liberty to take some of these designs through an AI editor to see what it would become if it would be an Earthship, basically. And you'd get something like this. Hey, I could see it work. Dr. Karim, I hope you like it. Something like this, yeah, why not? Definitely see it could be inspiring to have these images for builders. So anyway, coming up first is our sponsor. Yeah, our previous episode we had the wholesaler of this brand. Now we have the brand itself. It's Organica CBD. It's basically the same product. But it's just focused around the CBD. If you have issues, probably sleeping issues or any type of relaxing issues, nervousness or any type of that, CBD oil will be your kicker. It will be the one who will get you into a natural, relaxing state without any pharmaceuticals getting you there. Now, I have heard on the previous episode, I've had some feedback that people said, well, 5% discount, that's not really much. Well, I'm sure, might not be too much, but I want to let you know that this product, this is not just a quality type of some different kind of quality brand that I'm just advertising to you. No, this is superb quality. If I show you here on the website, it shows that the way that they produce this oil, and you've learned about oil recently in my last episode. There's 3 types of oil that they can. Let me just get the right page there. There's 3 types of ways that they produce oil. There's alcohol extraction. There's alcohol involved in alcohol extraction. There's the heating, which a lot of impurities get heated to, and then there's the last one, which is CO2 extraction. Now, CO2 is the most expensive way of extracting the CBD out of the oil, but it's also the cleanest and it's also the best. It's not the cheapest, and that's why this oil it's very sharply priced already. The products, they are in itself, they're very good quality price ratio. So take that 5% discount. Also, what you're doing is supporting the channel, so it's a win-win-win. You get quality CBD oil, you support the show, and basically you're supporting a fantastic company that tries to make really quality products. So check them out. Go to organicacbd.com. It's yeah, I'm saying that right. organicacbd.com. Enter the code ParadigmShift and check out your 5% discount. And we thank you very much. Okay, let's return to our regular programming. This was the sponsor. Let's see what else we have. Right, I know what we have. We have this one. We have this one. This is a crab. And this crab, it does something fantastic. I mean, it just burrows a house out of sand. And you might think, well, that's not something that we can actually do, can we? Well, in the 1980s, Nader Khalili tried to build a house like that. And he is also, it was a similar housing project such as Michael Reynolds. He also started in a desert, and he started in major earthquake territory at the San Andreas Fault. He built homes basically out of dirt, and it was a dome. So let's see.
I remember going into the city of Hesperia as a contractor, not knowing Nader Khalili. And I remember in there pulling a permit for a different structure. They were kind of snickering and saying that this guy wants to build mud huts.
Well, the issue is a lot that because it's an architecture that had a very old elements, and it seemed like a poor architecture to some people. It was perceived as something that is not to build big skyscrapers or something that satisfies somebody's ego, but instead it satisfies somebody's needs.
He wanted to prove that his domes were earthquake resistant because if the ground opened up underneath, the teacup would fall. But if it is a hurricane, it's hurricane proof because the wind goes around the earth because it goes to the angle of repose. Nader knew all this stuff, but then have him take it to the building and safety committees, they rejected that greatly.
NASA, looking for design solutions for building on the moon and even Mars, took interest in Khalili's work and commissioned further research. The Office of the United Nations Refugee Agency consulted him to create strong, inexpensive shelters. But despite all this acclaim, the town of Hesperia made life difficult for their illustrious architect. Nader Khalili had to fight for 6 years just to obtain a building permit. Engineers Joanne Singer and Vicky Gray have recently joined the front lines of this fight.
They can't think outside the box. Anything that is not square and made of wood or concrete, they do not understand. They're not willing to try and analyze it because most of them do not have the schooling. Many of the directors of public works aren't even licensed engineers.
Yeah, I give props to them. These women, I mean, they're structural engineers and they're seeing what he's doing, but it shows the problem that we have in our world with compartmentalization. Town planners are not structural engineers. Structural engineers are not architects. This is a recurring problem that we have, and we need to take a more holistic view. We need to take a step back, and all of a sudden the paradigm shifts. So imagine what would happen. Imagine what would happen if we would have a different world where people start thinking in a different way. Well, let's see.
I grew up here at Cal Earth, and it was a very unique experience because I would bring my classrooms up here for field trips, or my father would come to our class and teach children in the class. He would ask everyone to go on the board and to draw a house. And so everyone, what would they draw? They would draw a square with a triangle and a small chimney and a door and a window. And then he would talk about how drawing houses like that as children, that is the kind of thing that, destroys the forest, and that he would teach the children to build rainbow homes.
Houses from now on is going to be rainbows. Instead of that, you're just going to design with rainbow.
Yeah. So once you start teaching children to build rainbow houses, there's no thinking of how far you could go. And we have an example of that. There's this one guy, he's the fourth architect on our list today. His name is Alosha Lynoff. Here's some of his designs. Yeah, so look at that. It's very different. There's no straight lines. I especially like this one because it's made somehow on top of our show's logo, which is extraordinary. What about this one? It's you can see there's three little domes and there's one giant bigger dome. It's on top of it. It's the greenhouse. So it basically is definitely the Earthship structure, but without the straight corners. Also notice all the earth bags. So it's a combination of everything that we've been looking at. There's this house as well. It's very creative. Something like this could be possible too. This is his latest one, and this one there's some square ones in there, but he'll explain later why. This one is very interesting because he's designing this one for a cold climate such as Canada or Siberia, which is very different from a desert. So basically what started in the 1970s has now almost gone revolutionary. Now, Alosha is not only building with tires, with earth bags, with all of the traditional Earthship structures. He's also working on aircrete. He's working insulation into it. He's trying to figure out how to do it. I mean, let's hear from him ourselves.
So the foundation is going to be with tires, and I'm going to insulate underneath the foundation and underneath the floor to make sure that we do not lose any heat, because in Russia and Canada, some of the average temperatures in some of the areas is as little as 7 degrees Celsius. So a stock standard design from Mike Reynolds, which is a master wizard in biotexture, but his design is not going to work for really cold climate because of the insulation that needs to happen underneath the floor. The walls have decided to reduce an amount of tires and substitute them with SuperAdobe. I love SuperAdobe, and it is such a great building material, using less than 1/10 of cement and much easier than pounding tires, because even kids can do it with the little stomper and compress earth. And some of the techniques now that I've learned, that you can have two people with a special little trolley operating on top and actually just going down on the amount of crew, because the current Earthship uses 30-40, and when I went in Malawi it was 120 of us that were pounding those tires, plus the locals that came to build their school. It's insane, an amount of people that's required for conventional Earthships. So I've decided to take the best out of Mike Reynolds' design and combine it with my own building experience and the lack of financial ability that the world, the real people are having right now. So how can we build a home with less crew, possibly even just a family, using a little bit of machinery if we have to, which is still way cheaper than labor, and create a home that's really comfortable and beautiful and can nurture and keep us safe and well fed inside.
Yeah, so I really like his ideas, and there's this bigger drawing as well where you can see like his overall idea of what a community such as this one, what it could look like. I mean, this is just the world that you want to live in, don't you? This is just all what you're seeing here, all little self-sustainable houses with permaculture in between, all very balanced and very harmonious, and it's all very possible with these innovations that are there. So definitely check out the BioVeda Academy by Alosha Lynoff, and maybe order a course there, because this episode is really for the future architects. It's really about what kind of houses do you want to live in? What kind of world do you want to build? You want to build more square? You want to build more rectangulars? Or you could build something that's based on human value and what we actually want to become. So yeah, this is I'm really inspired by all of this. So just to sum it up, Alosha, he tries to go to the extreme and revolutionize everything. He tries to implement all existing techniques out there. He tries to implement sacred geometry with the Vesica Pisces. He tries to make it affordable, and he builds it. Tries to make it with a small crew, to make it beautiful, and to make a community. Basically, this is the message of today's episode, and we're gonna close off very shortly. So if we want to have sustainable housing, if we want to go off-grid, it should be a definition of sustainable housing, because if you can make it locally and you can make it small scale and you can scale that up, that is sustainability for the whole planet. I think my ideology would be, my ideas would be that every family, they should need a football field to build on, not only to build on but also to grow food upon, and like have that as a good base. So not only for yourself but also for guests who you invite, and try to make that a value that you want to strive for. You want to make use of thermal mass. It's something that's very largely overlooked in traditional buildings. You want to innovate, you want low-cost designs, and you want to live next to other people who have made the paradigm shift. Thank you so much for watching this episode. It's been a bit of a strange one, maybe a little bit this and there, and a little bit that and there. But overall, I hope that there's that you find the cohesion in all of these subjects, and I hope you understand why I have gotten so inspired to live in a house made of dirt and trash. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Please leave a like under this episode. Please subscribe to that button. It helps us out very much. We're a growing channel, and we need to grow bigger and faster just to get the paradigm shift out there, because we want to do best for the whole of humanity. Also, please don't forget to visit our sponsor. It's a great sponsor. It's a great product as well. So I'm very proud of it. All right, thank you very much. Peace out. See you next week.